have an episode for you guys this week. Welcome back to the Point After with Grusk. Today we are talking college football. And college football is just amazing because when you think you've seen everything in college football slaps you in the face and reminds you and says, no, you haven't even seen everything yet. Now, some of these things are we've seen before, but we just maybe never thought we'd see again. And we'll kind of get into it. I'm excited. It's a juicy episode. Lots happened this week, not just within the lines of the football field, but outside those lines as well. And things are continuing to happen outside those lines as well. So let's dive right into it. First things first, want to get right into the game breakdown. Couple games to talk about. Obviously, BYU for the fans out there. Another great win. I mean, they dominated UCF. Yeah, I think the biggest problem with BYU is they need to figure out their crap when it comes to starting fast. Too many times they've started slow this year. They get punched in the mouth. We saw it when they play a good team like Texas Tech. It is hard to recover. It's almost impossible to recover. And they started down 14-0 against UCF. UCF, I think the commentator said, hadn't scored in the first quarter of the game all year, and they put up 14 on BYU in the first quarter. That is not good. Now, maybe it was a trap game. Maybe it was looking forward to the conference championship because they already clinched it. Whatever it may be, no excuses. Got to be better. Got to be better. That said, they adjusted. Bear Bachmeier, again, shows poise, doesn't panic, comes back, leads them to, whatever it was, 2 possessions game, 20-point victory, whatever it was. Shout out Parker Kingston, the punt return. Again, I've talked about it before. Style points mean everything. Punt return is definitely a way to do that. So great win for BYU. We'll get into the rankings later. You know how it is. So just going to recap those games. Biggest game, biggest upset, right? Texas beating Texas A&M. God, you hate that for A&M fans. Having the best season maybe in program history, going to the college football playoff, and now they're not even going to the SEC championship because they lost to Texas. Ouch. Ouch. Texas, the one that they've struggled with, the one that they can't get the win. Texas looks better and better every week. I said it early, I think maybe in one of my first episodes. I don't think Ohio State's got enough credit for that Texas win. I think Texas, they started off slow. I can't lose to Florida, but they're a good team. And I think, in a rivalry game like that, anybody can win. And they obviously showed up and showed out. Just throwing another wrench in the committee, right? I do think it's kind of bull crap. Steve Sarkisian's out there. It would be a disservice. Well, I think you did your own program a disservice by losing to Florida. Simple as that. That's a bad loss. You lost to Florida. You want to talk about, our losses are conveniently, Ohio State. We won't schedule the number one team. If you didn't schedule the number one team, you'd be 10-2, and you would still be on the bubble of the playoff. So don't lose to Florida. That's my advice to Steve Sarkisian and the Texas football team. Anyways, good win for them though. A&M will slide a little bit, and I'll get into that when I get in my rankings. Obviously the game, everyone wanted to talk about. I guess briefly I'll touch on another impressive win for me is the Oregon football game. All year they've been talked about, the one big game they played against Indiana, they lost. I get that. They go and play USC at home last week. Well, first they go and beat Iowa on the road, and then they play USC at home. They win that game. And then really, I think people forget how tough it is to that's a rivalry game, Washington, Oregon. They hate each other. So going on the road in a rivalry game is always going to be tough. Washington was solid this year. Washington was a solid football team. So it was a really gritty win for Oregon, and they've punched their ticket into the playoff. And some might say the most coveted spot in the playoff because you're not playing in the conference championship, which means you basically get a bye, and then you're hosting a game, right? So this might be the most coveted spot in the college football playoffs. It's the same spot that Ohio State was in last year. You get a bye, and then, you're hosting a playoff game, right? So really, really a good spot for them. So good win. Obviously, Ohio State, speaking of them, they won the game. Now, this was one I really wanted to watch. We know historically Ryan Day has struggled against Michigan. They've lost 4 straight against Michigan. I think last year they had obviously the best team in the country. They ran through people in the playoffs. But I think last year in the game they may have tried to play a little bit too much of Michigan's game, and it played into their hands. And I think it's tough. I think he learned from his mistake. They definitely played um, more of their Ohio State game, but I also think they had just a coming out party. Bo Jackson, man, they started running the ball. They kind of found something in the run game, and that's dangerous for anybody that has watched Ohio State all year. If they get consistent in the run game, they're going to be basically impossible to stop. My MVP of the week for college football this week was Julian Sayin. Heisman candidate may have I mean, that's he's going to be able to punch his ticket really this week on Saturday if they beat Indiana handily and he has a good game. It's tough. People say Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Julian Sandwin, and I just the response was great. He's so good. He's so calm. He went and threw that pick. First drive. You kind of wonder how he's going to come out and respond as a freshman, and he came out and played great. So he's my MVP this week. So that was a great game. Congrats to Ohio State. Undefeated season, looking to potentially be 13-0 and on their way to potentially the greatest season of all time if they win out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, last game really to highlight is the Iron Bowl. I mentioned in last week's episode that I was in attendance. I woke up early, had to drop some family off, then drove straight to Auburn for the Iron Bowl. Such a great game. I mean, 5-star atmosphere, 5-star. And you guys have to remember, this is an Iron Bowl where this Auburn team has not been good. They just fired their coach, which we'll get into, the updates there later on. Fired their coach, haven't really had an offense, have had a decent defense, but they're playing Alabama with a chance to ruin Alabama's season. And these teams hate each other. Hate each other. So it was awesome to be in attendance for that. What a great game. Unfortunate the way it ended. I think Auburn actually had multiple chances to win this game by more than they did. I think that defensively they were the better team, and they made plays on offense, just couldn't make enough. There's the fourth down call from Kalen DeBoer is going to be looked at as this amazing play call. Not sure it was the right play call. Obviously, it looks genius now. They won by a touchdown, but could have been up by 3. Trust the defense. Maybe he didn't trust his defense. In that moment, they were going for it on fourth down. I think this is where the chess game was won. I think Kalen DeBoer is going for it on fourth down, or at least lined up with the play call that they like. They didn't snap it right away. I would have loved to see a timeout from DJ Dirk in there. As soon as you see them, maybe DJ thought they were baiting him. Maybe I don't know what was going. I would have loved to see a timeout. That's the play of the game is fourth down. You get a stop, you can work the clock, go down, kick a field goal, win, or you control your destiny at that point. Um, they still obviously had a chance to go down and score, but you're down a touchdown. It's a lot more pressure. You're scoring a touchdown rather than, you basically lose the potential to run the football because of that. So I would have liked to see a timeout, get your ducks in a row, and who knows, maybe Bama comes out and kicks a field goal after you call timeout. You never know. I would have liked to see that, get in the perfect call defensively. That was my opinion. So again, really sucks to see it end the way it did with that fumble. I mean, it's poetic, right? The best player on Auburn's offense is the one that fumbles the ball. Great play by the defense, punching it out. Auburn almost had the chance to help out the BYU Cougars, and they could not get it done. So that is kind of leading us into what the college football playoff looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now with you guys, and let's just get right into it. Like I said, this is something, the episode's going to be a little longer, but I do want to make sure that I keep it quick for you guys. All right, so a lot of movement from the big upset. So Ohio State at 1. I had A&M at 2. They dropped out pretty significantly, actually. So I've got Indiana there at the 2. Because of that, Georgia moves up to the 3. And then Texas Tech at the 4. Oregon beating I think you just got to compare the losses, right? Georgia's lost to a top 10 Auburn. Indiana, no losses. Ohio State, no losses. Texas Tech lost to, Arizona State without their starting quarterback. And then Oregon's losses to number 2 Indiana. A&M lost to Texas. It's tough. I mean, again, that's interchangeable, but they slipped down to 6 for me. So I got, Georgia at 3, Texas Tech at 4, Oregon at 5, A&M at 6, Ole Miss is at 7. I had them at 6 before with the loss. I think they get bumped down. There's also other circumstances that I think are going to make it very difficult for them to win in the playoffs, and we'll see what the committee thinks as I get into that. Okay. Well, let's just bring it out. Okay. Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin has accepted the job at LSU and has taken quite a bit of staff from what we're hearing to LSU. What does that look like for Ole Miss? It's tough. It's a tough predicament to be in, and I think the committee's in a tough spot because we know a couple years ago Florida State lost their starting quarterback as they were undefeated and were left out of the playoff because of that. Now, surely the head coach is more valuable than the starting quarterback. Not to mention just the head coach, the play caller, the offense, the whole strength of Ole Miss is their offense. Potentially that whole side of the ball is gone to LSU. So, what does that look like for the committee? Can you really tell me that Ole Miss is a top 10 team without their head coach and offensive staff? I don't think so. It sucks because I don't think you should punish the team either. You shouldn't punish the players, but that's the position we've been put in with the calendar of of college football. With the signing day being Wednesday, you got to take a job. The window is during the season. There's a lot to fix. I don't know the full solution, but I think the way Lane left sucks. I don't necessarily think it was 100% right, but I don't 100% blame it on him either. Just with the way the window is. I know he wanted to coach, but I also understand the athletic director and Ole Miss saying, heck no. Screw you. Go take your money, go coach LSU, and we'll handle ours. So Ole Miss loses LSU's Lane Kiffin, and then they turn around and hire defensive coordinator. I'm completely blanking on his name right now. So that's that. They're at 7 because of that, and who knows? Maybe the committee thinks they're worse, but I just don't see the committee dropping them out. Um, 8 Notre Dame. They smashed Stanford. 9 Oklahoma. I still have that. I think the committee has those swapped 9-8. I really don't care. It's interchangeable in my opinion. And then 9-10 is Bama again. 11 will be Virginia. Welcome to the party. SMU lost at Cal. They are not in the ACC championship, which means Duke versus Virginia. Now, if Duke wins, things get real spicy. James Madison and Tulane potentially get in. It's a crazy scenario. I think Virginia wins that game. We will see. If they don't, oof, it could get real sticky. I really that's uncharted territory. Again, one of those things. You got a 7-5 team playing for their conference championship. Wow. Wow. Fix that. I don't know. Fix that, ACC. You might screw yourself over of a playoff bid if that happens. If that happens, if Duke wins the playoff, you're getting Tulane, you're getting the American Conference champion, and you're probably getting James Madison. I think James Madison should be in. Again, these are my way. This is how I would rank teams. 12, James Madison. Tulane, great. They may have a better resume, right? I don't necessarily even think that's true. James Madison is 11-1. Tulane is 10-2. By the way, Tulane just lost their head coach too. So if you're going to take that into effect with Ole Miss, you got to think about that too with Tulane. I think I think he's coaching that game, but how as a player do you even focus on that if you know your head coach is bouncing? I don't know. To me, I don't know. So I put James Madison at 12. I think they're 11-1. They also lost their head coach. So it's a mess. It really is a mess because now it's like, what do James Madison play for? Right? Are they letting him coach? Maybe it's, hey, maybe this is a performance indicator for James Madison players saying, okay, my coach is going to UCLA. How can I make sure he brings me with him? I don't know. I don't know. That's the playoff I've got right now for the 12. BYU first one out. BYU should be in there flat out. I think if you threw Bama's logo, Notre Dame's logo, Oklahoma's logo, A&M's logo on BYU's helmet, they're probably hosting a playoff game, so it's some garbage, but whatever. Utah second out, Vandy third out. You could probably flip-flop Vandy. I think Vandy just dominated Tennessee, and they really turned it on the last 2 weeks of the season where Utah played a couple close games, so I can see people flip-flopping those. Vandy's got a great resume, and Miami as well with 2 losses is going to be the first team out. Again, I kind of said it last week. I think we're at the point where we have, unfortunately, 16 teams that are good enough for the playoff, 15 teams, and we only have 12 spots. That's how it goes. I think BYU needs to just show out. There's a good chance that if BYU plays Texas Tech close, they may earn the respect of the committee and say, "Hey, they played an extra game. That was their one loss, and they played it close." But hard to say that Bama will be bumped out for losing, even though they should. Notre Dame and Oklahoma not having to play in a conference championship and being locked in is just absolutely stupid. BYU will have played an extra game and have the same amount of losses as them, except for the two losses that BYU had would be to a top five team, top four team potentially. So a lot of hoopla, a lot of garbage out there. Those are my playoff rankings. Getting right into the next part would just be the wildness that happened Sunday morning. Um, Waking up, boom, Auburn's has not hired DJ Durkin like I actually thought they might, and I didn't think they should, but I thought they might. They go hire DJ Durkin. No, they go and they get Alex Golish, which by the way, slam dunk hire for Auburn. I think that this guy was his first press conference. The first thing he's like, I don't have freaking hobby. He's like, I don't freaking golf. I don't freaking fish. I don't have hobbies. I just coach ball. This guy just wins. He just wants to win. He's gritty. I think he's everything the Auburn culture needs. Um, and wow, slam dunk hire for him. I can't believe Arkansas fumbled the bag. Whatever it is, I don't know. Arkansas goes and again, this is all in the span of like 3 hours maybe. So Alex Golish goes to, he goes to Auburn. Ryan Silverfield from Memphis, he's at Arkansas now. They lock him up. Next thing you know, John Summerall to Florida is announced. That's a huge hire. I think Summerall originally was Auburn's guy. Auburn kind of fumbled that bag, somehow stumbled their way backwards into a great hire with Alex Golish. So Summerall is a Florida man, which I'm becoming more and more of a Gator fan, and I love this hire. And I think the first thing he said right away was that he's going to go get an elite staff. Biggest thing people were bummed about with Napier was he was refusing to give play calling responsibilities. He wouldn't hire an OC. He adamant on being the offensive coordinator. Summerall, I think he is very meticulous about how he manages his programs and how he runs them. He's going to go get an offensive coordinator. He's going to go get a really good defensive coordinator. And he brought his GM with him over. And Tulane is a really, really respectable program. And John Summerall is not Billy Napier. People need to understand that. People are riping and griping. Florida went into the state of Louisiana again and grabbed a G5 coach. This is not the same, right? Josh Pate, credit him for that. That's basically verbatim what he said, and I agree. It's you can't compare them. I think that's unhealthy. Yes, it sucks because you were hoping to get Lane. I don't personally think Lane's toxicity is great for the Florida job. I think Summerall's a slam dunk hire. So he goes to Florida. Lane Kiffin. Then Lane Kiffin just, I mean, it wild back and forth. He goes to LSU. Ultimately, apparently, I mean, he denied it, but he basically told his offensive staff either stay here or come with me. If you're not on the plane, you're not getting a job. That's the report. What the report said, which is just bonkers. So he's at LSU, which is a slam dunk hire for them. I think that, I mean, obviously there's a reason he's there, and I think LSU probably one of the best coaching jobs you can get. I think LSU and Florida were the two. And, LSU's got great resources. I wouldn't be surprised if they're hoisting a national championship trophy here in the next 2 to 3 years with Lane Kiffin. I also think he fits the culture there. Just kind of gritty. I think they're going to play villain. I think he's going to buy into the villain now. He's going to buy into that kind of model fully now. And um, shout out to Ole Miss for having that plan, man. Going straight to the DC. Pete Golding. I blanked on his name. It's Pete Golding. Hiring Pete Golding right away. I think the players seem to love it. The fact that they hired him right away as the permanent head coach, not the interim head coach, goes to show that they kind of knew Lane may have been out the door for a while. So they had a plan in place. Maybe had spoken with him already. So they hire him as their head coach. Oddly enough, today Kentucky announces that they are firing Stoops, which Summerall coached at Kentucky. So maybe if they fired him sooner, they get a run at Summerall. Who knows? Don't know who's going to fill that spot. A lot of spots available. Obviously, like I said, James Madison coach Bob Chesney is going to be at UCLA, which leaves people stumped. People thought he was going to be the guy for Penn State. Now, the heartbreaking of heartbreak, the the bad news for the Cougars. As of right now, Kalani Sitake is in pretty deep discussions with Penn State. Apparently, they have been for 10 days, and with there being 10 days of talking, and then over the weekend a flight being tracked from State College to Provo, it's not great. It's not great, and it's not great for multiple reasons. One, BYU is supposed to be playing for a conference championship right now. What's more distracting than another team that didn't even make a bowl game this year somehow potentially being able to poach your coach? That would infuriate me as a player. As an institution of BYU, I'm frustrated then that this should have never gotten to this point. Honestly, Santiago should have locked him up already. We should have given him a deal. Should have given him more money. Should have given him more resources. Can't tell me that we can't. I mean, we're paying basketball players more money than Kalani Sitake to be one and done, right? We don't know the full amounts, but we have the funds. Pay the man, right? I might have disagreements with the way he coaches football and some of the decision he makes, but that's everybody. Everybody has gripes and stripes with their coaches, and everybody, has questions on things. Kalani is the guy for BYU. He flat out is. Now there is some level of, I don't know what you want to say, like consolation, I guess, in the fact that Jay Hill is probably would be the first call, and he's a great coach. He's a head coach material. Um, but then you lose a lot of roster. Why not? I would much rather have Kalani and Jay Hill, right? I think that that's the hope for BYU fans, and so we'll see what happens. Not jazzed about the way he handled it in his press conference. He used a lot of past tense words, said that his relationship with the athletic director has been great. I would love to have had him hear him say, yeah, my relationship with Brian Santiago is great. We have a great relationship. We'll see. We will see. It could be smoke and mirrors. I think if you're BYU, go get him. Now, on the flip side, it's frustrating from a perspective of, Kalani Sitake because this guy for the last 10 years has talked about how BYU is his dream job. BYU is where he wants to be. He loves Lavelle Edwards. Lavelle Edwards is his role model. He's considering another job for money, flat out for money and resources. He was able to attain this at BYU 11-1 with the resources he has, and it's his dream job, but he's now flipping the script, potentially wanting to go to a state or a school that he has virtually no ties to over his dream job. That to me is a red flag. Um, we'll see. I don't know anything. I'm just throwing out a bunch of opinions, a bunch of thoughts. I would bet that he stays because I'm going to take the rumors at a grain of salt and take what Kalani has said more fully. And I'm going to trust that Kalani is the guy that he says he is. And we'll hope for the best. By the time this comes out tonight or tomorrow I think could be the end of it of the Kalani era, and BYU could miss the playoffs because they're not locked in for the playoff or the championship, and whew, rough, 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 rough. So that's how things are looking for BYU. That's how things are looking at college football. Another crazy, crazy week, guys. Things just keep coming. I might start doing a little bit more emergency episodes so I don't have to pack things in as much. Just hop on wherever I'm at and give you guys my thoughts. Please let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe would be awesome. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It just makes me feel happy, makes me feel heard. And if you don't like it, that's fine too. Just stop listening. That's cool too. I think a lot of you may have already stopped, which great for you. Um, Other than that, college football championship week. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a preview. Look for that on Thursday. NFL breakdowns not seeming to be super loved universally, so we'll take a look and see. Maybe I just include that little portion of that, on Thursday episodes. But other than that, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next time.